Mayor's Update for December 2016. I'm Megan Pembroke, Communications Director for the City of Everett. Each month we sit down with Mayor Ray Stephenson to talk about issues and projects that are important to you. Mayor, we finally reached the end of the year.
I know. Happy holidays to you and your family.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, and all our viewers. All two of them. Hopefully more. Yeah, your husband and my wife.
Well, Mayor, I wanted to start by giving you an opportunity to talk about a statement you shared at Council at the end of November. In recent weeks, we've gotten questions from community members, neighbors who are feeling unsafe or worried about the safety of other people in the community. Can you talk a little bit about what you shared at that Council meeting?
Well, you know, I've seen this occur, unfortunately, at different times in our community life where things are said, people are bullied, really some ugly comments are made, and I unfortunately, I think a lot of that came out during the recent presidential election. It doesn't really matter who you support or who you didn't support. But the reason that I made that statement is we have a number of our citizens who may have kids in school. It may be a workplace situation. It may be just when they're out in public at the grocery store who are hearing some pretty ugly things and mean-spirited things. And that kind of behavior in community life in Everett, in my view, is just unacceptable. And when we're aware of it, we need to speak out against it. And when our citizens are concerned about it, we're concerned about it. We have a very open policy in our police department. We do not identify individuals and ask for citizenship when we make contact with them. We deal with the situation at hand, and we always deal with it very responsibly. And so I want our citizens to know that, but I also want them to know that if they're experiencing problems in the community, wherever it might be, please contact our office. You know, we may not be able to deal with it directly if it's a school issue, but we can communicate that to school officials or wherever the situation might be. And from time to time, if I need to speak out against bullying or racial profiling or whatever it might be, I'm going to add my voice to that, because it's not who I am, it's not what I believe, and it's not what this community is about. And we need to speak very strongly against it if it's occurring.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that's really important for our community to hear. Well, shifting gears, in November, the Council approved a resolution that moves forward our supportive housing project at the Berkshire Drive location and directs staff to start the SEPA process. It's an important milestone for us. Can you talk a little bit about that and what's coming next?
I certainly can, and I guess the first thing I would say, you know, I really didn't know how that vote would go. And to have unanimous support by the City Council, I think really speaks volumes to the fact that they understand it. They took the time to do their own research. They did outreach to Seattle and Bellingham to look at supportive housing environments, talk with neighbors, and universally they came away with the belief that we are absolutely on the right track. Now is the time for the next several months through the SEPA process for us to really identify the operating conditions of the supportive housing that Catholic will build. I suspect that probably 12 months from now, if all goes as expected, we'll be breaking ground. So we're probably 24 months away from opening a new facility. But I want this supportive housing to be a world-class development, and from everything that we've seen that Catholic has been involved with, it will be that kind of development. I think it will add positively to the neighborhood. And so to make sure that all voices are heard, we're sort of at the confluence of 3 neighborhoods at this location. We have residential interests and concerns. We have businesses that are there. We want to bring stakeholders together to make sure that we're not only addressing the issues about the supportive housing, but frankly, we're addressing quality of life issues that they maybe have been living with and would like to see a positive change. I think this is really a good opportunity for us to have a great conversation and some action out of that conversation that really does make this supportive housing development, as well as the 3 neighborhoods in this area that's really ideally suited, sort of middle of the city, really work for everyone. And I think that's what the council's unanimous vote said, and it's certainly what I've been saying. And so I'm very encouraged. Recently, you and I and some others toured a facility at Bridgeway where a number of individuals who have gotten treatment for mental illness and other disabilities have an opportunity to work. I know that that's been a big question on people's mind, is are people just, going to take up residency and never work again? And from what you and I saw and what we're hearing, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for people who can get the help they need inside this facility. And that's really the whole design and the whole idea is, if you're on the street, if you have an addiction, if you have a mental illness, your chances of getting help are pretty slim. You provide housing, which is, in my view, a basic right for every human being on this planet. Now you can start getting them the help and support they need. And I'm a big believer, but having that vote meant so much to me, and I think so much to the community, that we're on the right track. We are proactively dealing with a huge social problem that we see engulf many other communities, and we're going to get out ahead of it, and we're going to do more and more and more. And I hope Snohomish County will be part of that discussion and part of that action plan. I believe they will, and we will help them every way we can to show them how we did it and how they can do it as well.
Great. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about responsible giving and the Vision Committee.
In some areas of the city, direct donations have led to accumulations of debris, creating a health hazard and an unsightly mess for neighboring businesses. For the past year, our public works crews have cleaned up the block of Smith Avenue 3 times a week, removing a ton of trash and discarded items during each cleanup, at a cost of nearly $160,000 in staff time and dump fees. Giving to those in need is vital for the health of our community. Unfortunately, providing clothing, food, or money directly to those on the street can do more harm than good. Clothes and supplies handed out often end up discarded and unused. Donated food can go uneaten, creating waste that attract rodents. Monetary donations may not be used to purchase food or other needed items and may not help the recipient create real change in his or her life. Our community is fortunate to have a variety of service providers who are dedicated to helping those on the street. When you donate or volunteer through one of these organizations, your support goes farther, leading to more help for those in need and less harm to the community. Whether you want to donate clothes, food, money, or your time, working with a service organization will ensure that your generosity and compassion have the best outcome. When you give responsibly, you engage in the community and you transform lives.
Welcome back to the Mayor's Update. Well, Mayor, the holidays are here. It's a time when people think about charitable giving.
Yes.
And at the end of November, we launched a campaign around giving responsibly, asking people who are wanting to help those on the street to make their donations of time, money, food, clothing through a local service provider rather than giving directly to those on the street. Can you talk a little bit about what we've seen when people do those curbside donations and why we're asking them to work with service providers?
You know, first of all, I think the intentions of anyone giving, their heart's in the right place, and I really thank them for doing that. But there are some responsible ways and some unintended consequences of not being thoughtful about giving. So let me talk about a couple of those. Many of the faith-based organizations in our community are all about feeding programs and trying to provide nourishment for those on the streets. And there's really a responsible way to do that. The Gospel Mission is a great location with a kitchen where churches can come in, organizations can come in and sponsor a meal. So that's a very successful way to do it. Oftentimes, these scattered programs, and we have many of them, and I'm sure they'll continue, but without sanitation facilities, it does create problems for residents and businesses. And so I think that I would just ask our citizens to be thoughtful in terms of where is what I'm giving going to end up. A responsible way to give to a church or an organization or be part of a feeding program that I just mentioned. There are great organizations around the community that give clothing, that give sleeping bags, and give other essentials for life. What we're finding is that direct giving onto the street oftentimes ends up, unfortunately, with the city out there 3 times a week, spending $160,000 of taxpayer money every year cleaning up the mess. And so if you go onto our website, it'll show you how to give responsibly. I have charities that I'm fond of, that I give furniture and I give clothing that is that I no longer need. That's what I would really encourage people to do. And some of those organizations, frankly, will provide clothing for those in our community. But the one thing that I really appreciate about it, many of them, is if that clothing cannot, or those items cannot be used in a local community, they'll ship them around the world to people in need. So there's some really good organizations that do it. But I would just encourage people, as tempting as it might be, don't give directly on the street, because oftentimes it may provide shelter for one night, like a sleeping bag. The next morning it's wet, it gets discarded, and we're down there cleaning it up. So I would encourage people to just think about sort of the stream of where that product may go.
It's great. And everettwa.gov/give responsibly, we have a list of service organizations. Right. We also have a time-lapse video that shows a week at Smith Avenue and the accumulation of debris there. Well, finally, Mayor, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Vision Committee. We had an application process this fall. We had a number of really qualified people apply, and you and the council have selected 22, I believe, individuals to serve on that committee starting in January. Can you talk a little bit about what that group will do?
Well, when I first came to office, I brought a group of citizens together to really identify the vision for the city of Everett really over the next 20 years. And we've had really great progress. I'll give you a couple examples. We talked about we really needed a public four-year college, and we've had a huge commitment made by Washington State University and university partners. So we're providing that education here, and we'll even be educating medical students here by 2019. So, you know, it really, beyond anything that I thought would have occurred back then, that thing has really taken hold and is really providing an incredible support system for our citizens. We talked about the development of the riverfront and the harbor front. 8 years of a recession kind of slowed us down, but now you see riverfront development coming out of the ground. You know, 13 houses sold already. Next year, you're going to hear announcements about the commercial development on the old landfill site. On the other side of the peninsula, the Port of Everett's doing remarkable work down developing their waterfront. It'll be residential living, a lot of amenities. The Weyerhaeuser building was moved. So we're really starting to see progress in that regard. We also talked about providing better transportation infrastructure. I think the two things that have really highlight success is we'll see commercial air service, scheduled air service out of here by this time next year. And our citizens just supported bringing light rail to Everett by 2035, 36. So we've really made great progress. We had urban design planning that we did. We have a wonderful metro plan now that's working its way through the approval process. We've got a great planning staff. So we've really, I think, created a lot of arts and culture and great quality of life amenities for our community. But with any plan, it's, you know, every once in a while you have to sit down and say, you know, first of all, take an inventory of what we've accomplished, and then is it still a viable document? This is not a do-over. This is really a process for revising and updating that vision plan really through 2025 and beyond. So we did outreach to citizens. We had a lot of just really wonderful applicants. The thing that I appreciated, we saw people volunteering who've not been part of community life before, who have great skill sets and will bring a lot to the table. So 22 individuals were selected. We have 14 neighborhoods represented out of the 19. It's very diverse from a race and from a gender perspective. So I really think that we've got an opportunity starting in January for probably a process that'll take 6 months of having just a wonderful product and a really good representation of what our citizens want for their city.
That's great, and we've got some more information on our website about that, and when those meeting dates are set, we'll get that up there as well.
And we're going to film it as well, right? So
yes.
The people who can attend will be able to go online and watch it.
Yep, we will have it on the Everett channel.
Excellent.
Well, thank you, Mayor.
Happy holidays.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you have a happy holiday season, and we will see you in the new year.